Stop and think about how one of the biggest companies on the planet actually got started. It's one of those stories that sounds almost made up. The story of a single idea that just exploded into a global empire that, let's be honest, touches pretty much every part of our lives. Okay, let's get into this incredible journey.
That's really it. No grand plan for cloud computing, no movie studios, no delivery drones. The entire trillion-dollar machine we know today kicked off with the simple idea of selling books over this new thing called the internet.
And you really got to hang on to that idea of simplicity. The initial concept was laser focused on just one product category. It was basically the test subject for a much, much bigger idea down the road.
When it all began, there wasn't this massive network of fulfillment centers, no fleet of delivery vans. It was the complete opposite of the logistics monster we see today.
And right at the heart of it all was Jeff Bezos. He saw a future that, frankly, very few people could even wrap their heads around, and he was willing to bet absolutely everything on it.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How do you get from A to Z like that? It wasn't just luck. Nope. It was a very specific and, let's be honest, pretty controversial blueprint for growth. And that's exactly what we're going to break down.
So our story kicks off like a lot of these tech legends with a huge risk and, well, a pretty humble setting.
Picture this. It's 1994. Jeff Bezos has this great job on Wall Street. You know, safe, pays really well. But then he sees this one statistic that he just can't shake. The internet was growing at 2,300% a year. He just knew he had to be a part of it. So he walked away from that safe career and set up shop in his garage to build an online company.
So why books, of all things? Well, this is where you see the genius start to show. Books are a simple, standard product, right? There are millions of titles out there, way more than any physical store could possibly stock. Plus, they're pretty easy to pack up and ship. It was the perfect product to prove that this whole online store model could actually work, and work on a massive scale.
All right, so this is where the story takes a hard turn away from, business as usual. Bezos brought in a philosophy that completely baffled Wall Street for years.
And this quote just says it all. The goal wasn't about making a profit next quarter, or even next year. The goal was to become the automatic, go-to place for online shopping, to win the whole market, no matter what it cost in the short term.
You can really see two totally different mindsets here. While all the other companies were busy trying to keep their shareholders happy with quick profits, Amazon was playing a completely different, much longer game. They intentionally put off making profits for years, pouring every single dollar they made right back into growing the business.
And this is how they built what's now famously called the flywheel. It's kind of like a self-feeding loop. First, they lowered prices, which brought in more customers. With more customers, they could offer more stuff. A bigger business meant they could build a better, faster delivery system. And of course, a better experience pulled in even more customers. It just kept feeding itself, all powered by that constant reinvestment.
So once they proved the model worked with books, it was time to unleash that flywheel on, basically everything else.
But here's the thing. The real power move wasn't just selling more stuff, like a lot more stuff. No, the game changer was deciding to stop relying on other people and to start owning the entire process themselves.
And that's what we're talking about with infrastructure control. We're talking about Amazon deciding to build its own massive warehouses, develop its own cutting-edge logistics software, and eventually create its own delivery network of planes, trucks, and vans. This gave them an insane advantage in speed and cost that nobody else could touch.
Okay, but hold on. This is the big question, right? Building all this stuff, warehouses, airplanes, that costs billions of dollars. If the retail side wasn't making any real money, where on earth was all that cash coming from?
Well, the answer is probably the most fascinating and honestly unexpected twist in this whole story. See, to pay for its plan to dominate retail, Amazon built a kind of secret weapon, a part of the business that, on the surface, had absolutely nothing to do with selling you a toaster. And that weapon was Amazon Web Services, or AWS. It actually started as an internal thing, just to handle their own complicated tech needs. But then, they had a light bulb moment. What if we rented out all this computing power and data storage to other companies? It was a totally new business, and it was about to change the game.
And this right here, this shows you the secret sauce. For years, while the online store was barely breaking even, AWS was just a fire hose of pure profit. I mean, look at that. At times, AWS was bringing in 75%, sometimes even more, of Amazon's entire operating profit. That was the cash engine funding the whole global takeover.
Okay, so now all the pieces are on the board, right? You've got the retail store, the delivery network, and this hidden profit engine. This is when Amazon started building its final form, a completely locked-in ecosystem.
And this ecosystem is so powerful because it's built on these 4 pillars that all work together. First, you've got the shopping site. That's the front door that gets us all in. Second, the delivery network gives you that crazy speed and convenience. Third, behind the scenes, the AWS cloud is the money machine paying for it all. And finally, you have the hook, stuff like Prime Video and music, which makes a Prime membership so sticky you'd never dream of canceling it.
And that really is the perfect way to sum it all up. It's not just a store. It's a whole series of interlocking businesses that all feed and strengthen each other, creating a system that is just incredibly difficult to compete with.
So you go from a garage selling books to this global system that literally shapes how we shop, how we work, even how we're entertained. It's an undeniable story of business genius, but it also leaves us with this one massive question for the future. What happens when a single company doesn't just compete in the market, but owns the entire system we all operate in?